Hey, welcome to Hovercast TCG, your place for quality TCG content and discussion for all ages. My name is Eric Gansman, and I'm really excited to bring you our first episode here. So, before we start, we'd like to do some introductions. So, if either of you guys would like to start, go ahead.
All right, my name is Travis Nunlist. I've been playing competitive Pokemon since 2013. Since then, I've qualified for Worlds twice, and I'm really excited to get started on this YouTube channel for you guys.
My name's Britt. I've been playing Pokemon for getting close to about 8 years now, since about 2010. And I've qualified for Worlds 6 times the past 6 years, and I'm just very excited to try to bring something new to the Pokemon YouTube scene and try to bring out like good and interesting discussions of cards, decks, and so forth.
Yeah, I totally agree. My name is Eric Gansman, and I have been playing since 2011, competitively since around 2012, 2013. I have qualified for Worlds once this past year, and I made top 16. That's about all that it is with me. I'm just really excited to, like Britt said, bring you guys really good, quality, competitive content. So, before we get into our content, we'd like to talk a little bit about our goals for the channel. So, what we've seen so far from YouTube is a lot of really a quality of not quantity of content, but not a quality of content. Like a lot of the channels put out a lot of content all the time. And that's really great, and it's really great for the community. But we believe that we can put out a higher quality of standard content that'll help you guys even more. So that's our goal for the channel. We don't expect to put out a ton of videos every week because that's just not something that we're going to be able to do and put out quality for you guys. So we're going to focus more on just making the best videos possible for you guys. So still expect a couple videos a week because, you know, we're a YouTube channel. We can't grow without putting out a couple videos a week. But don't expect us to put out like some lackluster content just because we haven't put out a couple content in a couple days. We really want to make sure that it's good for you guys and it's helpful. So all the feedback that you guys can give us will be really appreciated to know if we're hitting the mark with what we're trying to do and whatnot. So do you guys have anything else to say, or do you think I hit it pretty well?
I think another important aspect of Hovercast moving forward is we're going to focus a lot on streaming.
Yep.
Bringing streaming to the table, bringing consistent streaming to the table is something we're really interested in doing. We don't see people streaming Pokemon very often, especially not, regular 3-4 times a week kind of streaming. And I think that's the kind of thing that we can really bring to the community.
Yeah, so what we're planning on doing, at least tentatively right now, is streaming at least 4 times a week, sometimes more. Travis and I have doled it out, so I'll be streaming twice a week, and he'll be streaming twice a week. Britt, and we have another partner, Jacob Willinger, who's not here right now. They're both unable to stream as much because of their schedules compared to ours, but I'm sure they'll be helping out as much as they can themselves. I can't think of anything else we need to really discuss. I just hope you guys really support us, and I hope that we're able to put out competitive content for you, and quality content too. That's the most important thing. So without further ado, let's start talking about Anaheim. So Britt, I know you're not going, but you've been testing this format. What have you liked the most for Sun and Moon Standard for Anaheim?
I've been trying a lot of decks in general, but one of the biggest things that I've noticed with the Sun and Moon cards is that while there's a lot of like good cards, but they're sort of good in a vacuum, in the sense that like Tauros is a really good card, but I don't think there's a really good Tauros deck. I think Tauros just like goes with everything. So with that in mind, I think just a lot of the decks that we've grown fairly accustomed with over the past year, or even more in some cases, some of those decks are really strong still. And so the deck that I think, if I had to play Anaheim, in 15 minutes, if I had to turn in my deck list, I think I would just play Volcanion. I think, in general, Volcanion was sort of unfigured out at the beginning of the year, but as time has progressed, the lists have gotten better and better, which I think have sort of increased its win percentage against decks that were sort of perceived to be unfavorable matchups, but with the right deck and, knowledge with the deck, it's close to 50-50 or maybe even favorable. So I think just like a really good vanilla Volcanion deck has a lot to offer especially in an untested format
Yeah.
when anyone trying out like new decks, their lists are probably going to be a little bit rough. In Volcanion, at the same time, I think the fire typing is a good place to be right now in the metagame. I know, Lurantis has some hype around it. You've always had a pretty good matchup against Vespiquen decks. Anything that wants to try to abuse the Decidueye GX, if you can, anytime you get a free win in those first 9 rounds of Swiss is just, so advantageous to you, especially if it's towards the middle of the end of the day. And I think Volcanion, as a concept, is always just one of those decks that you want to dodge if you're trying to play something anti-meta. It's just difficult, especially if you're weak to it.
Yeah, we know that really well.
Right. With cards like Scissor, which all 3 of us played for a tournament. Travis did well with it, and Eric came close to doing well with it, and I just played a lot of Volcanion. But there's not a whole lot of new cards to it. I've been toying around with the Ninja Boy Tauros package in the deck, and I like it a lot. I remember one of our friends, Jimmy McClure, in one of his most recent articles that he wrote for 6 prizes, sort of talked about GX Pokemon, or more specifically GX attacks, sort of being like ace specs. And his point, more or less, was that if you can afford to play them, you should, because they're just that good. Like when we had ace specs and it expanded now, you never don't play with an ace spec. And in the same way, I think you want to just play a GX attack in a lot of things if you can. And the Tauros is so splashable, and its GX attack is super good. And so I would definitely consider including that into the deck. But other than that, I don't think I really play anything other than the standard stuff. Professor Kukui, I'm not actually sure how you say it, is really good in the deck too. I don't know, Volcanion already hits super hard, and that card is just, very, very understandable as a 1-of or maybe even a 2-of in some decks, and it just helps Volcanion hit certain numbers a lot easier. And, if some of your harder matchups are cards like Mewtwo or cards with Garbodor in play, and so in those cases you cannot use your abilities, so your damage is considerably limited. But with the new supporter card, that extra 20 damage can really send you over, and can sometimes just be annoying. Sometimes you can get surprise knockouts with like a Steam Up and the Baby Volcanion's attack in addition to the plus 20. So it's just a really good option. But other than that, I don't really have anything different about it. I think one of the most difficult card choices when building Volcanion deck is deciding on stadiums.
Yeah.
Which stadium you play, which one you want to play. Do you play any at all? I think that's probably the card choice for the deck that is most undiscovered or unsettled upon amongst people in the community. Skyfield is popular, but I'm not a huge fan of that. But then you have Parallel City and Rough Seas, and maybe even none, maybe just one Parallel City I've seen before. It's a hard call, but I think that's probably the most difficult part about the list. Everything else sort of just builds itself.
Speaking of Garbodor, which you mentioned a bit, have you tried out catchers in Volcanion?
No, I have. I have not personally. I do understand that is a trend in the deck of late. I know a lot of people play 4. I played against one at Elite Cup that I think only played like 1 or 2, just because they found space, and it helped him beat me there. But I understand why it's good. I just don't think it's necessary. I don't know.
How do you deal with Garbodor then if you don't play catcher? What's your strategy against it when you're playing against, I guess, Yveltal Garb, because that's probably the deck that'll play Garbodor the most.
I mean, it's not that. You just Lysander, knock it out. Obviously, you can't do that without, a big attack. That probably has to be the Steam Siege attack. But that's not all that unrealistic, I don't think, especially because 2 Lysander are super stable in the deck. And, I mean, finding him, you might struggle too. But even in games where you can't get Garbodor knocked out, you can still sometimes just take an early lead, take a EX knockout on your second turn, before Garbodor is online, perhaps, and then just trade attacks throughout the game. It's hard and annoying, but if you ever prevent Garbodor from sticking on the field, then you just can't lose to other decks. Your damage is just so much higher. I think Lysander is fine. I don't like the sort of space commitment you have to make with the catchers. But I understand why you would play them, and that's just sort of like it's a high risk, high reward card, essentially. And I'm much more of a conservative player, and so I would like, I would rather spend more time with my deck list, buffing up counts of other cards, maybe fitting even more like niche tech supporters. Like I've messed around with, a Team Flare Grunt in my Volcanion deck, almost exclusively because, well, one, the card is very powerful, and two, no one expects Volcanion to play Team Flare Grunt.
Yeah.
And so sometimes, it's not in my list currently, but it's something I've tested, and I just like to have those surprise factors, and sort of avoiding cutting consistency with I can. So with the catchers, that's 4 trainer cards. It's kind of dead. If you're going to play against a Vileplume. But I understand why you would play them. It's just not my preference, I suppose.
Okay, fair enough.
It was a good question, though.
So Travis, how about you? What have you enjoyed so far in this format? And you're actually the only one going to Anaheim. So if you had to play right now, the tournament was today instead of 6 days from now, what would you be sleeving up?
I would probably play Mega Mewtwo Garb. I just think kind of following the same line of logic that Britt was discussing. I think the set is very, very good, but I just don't think that anything in the set is really capable of keeping up with the power creep in the current format. I think a lot of the cards in the set are very, very good, but I just don't think that they're stronger than any options we have right now. I think this is the kind of set that after a rotation happens, everything will immediately be playable because everything else with threat is now gone. Cards like Vikavolt and Solgaleo or Lunala, things that just abilities are just very restricted in this format.
Yeah.
So trying to employ these crazy abilities that take a long time to set up isn't really worth it when there's a potential for them you to not even be able to use them the whole game. And I think Mega Mewtwo is a really good option to deal with a lot of this new stuff that'll come out. I mean, against something like Decidueye, it needs 3 energy to attack. Mewtwo can DC and all those turbos and kind of pop up and kill it. Against something like Tauros, Mewtwo actually has a really good strategy against Tauros, where it doesn't have to attack into it. It can just it can attach a DC, take the 70 once, and then the next turn one-shot the Tauros, and then you have to deal with a big Mega Mewtwo.
Yeah.
Also, hilarious enough, Mewtwo's a deck that can play Tauros. Tauros is really good in Mega Mewtwo. I've been playing one, and it's great. It's a great turn 1 attacker, because you can't attack with Mewtwo on turn 1. It can deal with Giratina very well. Giratina can't even swing into it, or else it'll just die. It's just a great one-of tech to echo Brit and who echoed McClure earlier. It's like an A-spec. You want one in your deck, and Tauros is so splashable. You're already playing DC. Why not just put one in? And some of the problems that Mewtwo has, Tauros just kind of fills those niches. Helps you put on that early game pressure. Igor, for example, played a Hex in his finals list at Dallas, almost exclusively to deal with Giratina.
Yeah.
It's exactly why he had it, because of the Giratina issues he had in Florida. And so I think that just kind of switching out that Hex for a Tauros and just moving forward with Igor's list is what I've been testing so far. And I can't find anything in the deck I really want to change. And I think that if Anaheim were right now, I would just play that because it's simple. It's very strong, and I think that the only thing it super struggles with is clearly Gardevoir. And I don't know how on Gardevoir people will be going into a new format like this.
Okay, Fair enough. I was going to talk about Gardevoir, but I want to talk about a different deck instead. I actually do think Gardevoir is a really good deck, so I'll touch on that briefly before going on to what I want to talk about.
Mhm.
So, last format, Travis and I came to the conclusion around a couple weeks before Dallas at Yveltal Garb. We finally came around. Everyone else had come out to this realization a while ago, but we finally realized that Yveltal Garb is the best deck in the format. So we've been working with that deck for a while now, probably about a month. So that's currently been my favorite deck for Sun and Moon, because I've kind of just taken our Yveltal Garb list and just added Tauros, because Tauros is really, really good in that deck. I'd also like to talk about Vesterquin for a second and just say that I really like that deck as well, but if I was going into Anaheim right now, I would feel most comfortable playing Yveltal Garb because it hasn't lost anything. If anything, it's gained anything. Tauros is huge for the deck because it gives it an option to trade 2 shots, which Yveltal kind of had a difficult time doing against Darkrai before, which is still, I think, going to be a very big deck. So what you're able to do now with Tauros is you can play Ninja Boy and Yveltal, and if they ever hit into your Yveltal early game, you can just Ninja Boy into Tauros and just one-shot them with either your GX attack if they do like 60, 70 damage, or if they hit you for like 120, you just oh no, Rage is 20 plus. Yeah, you have to GX attack them. Sorry, I got it confused for a second. But Tauros just solves a lot of issues for the deck. It's also really good against Volcanion just to check them from hitting you for 2 shots. And it really doesn't gain any poor matchups from the new set. So I still think Yveltal Garb would be the best deck for Anaheim, and I think a lot of people are thinking along the same lines. So be prepared to play against a lot of it if you play against it. Any other thoughts by you guys?
I do. Just touching on the Yveltal deck. I like the utility of playing Ninja Boy in the deck.
Yeah.
Just in general, you have some like power plays, not even just with Tauros, but games against like a Mega deck, against Mega Mewtwo, it just like helps you. You can just Ninja Boy turn 1, say.
Into Fright Night, yeah.
Into Fright Night, right? Yeah, you have a lot of good plays with Fright Night as well through Ninja Boy.
Yeah, I wouldn't have played.
It's just a nice card in general, especially like I talked about with Volcanion, also playing Tauros and Ninja Boy. But Ninja Boy in general, I think it's just like a good just tech supporter. There's just like lots of uses, and we've all lost a number of games just not being able to get our Shamans off the board, and then your opponent knocks out the last Shaman for the game, and Ninja Boy can help against that in a lot of circumstances.
Yeah, Ninja Boy is a really good card, but I wouldn't add it to the deck unless you're playing Tauros, because Tauros brings that one-shot capability with Ninja Boy that you didn't have before. Like, if you play Ninja Boy without Tauros, you're going to be probably two-shotting the entire game, unless you, go from a Fright Night into an Yveltal and attach, 5 energy somehow. But Tauros just brings a lot of utility to the deck that I think without that, Ninja Boy wouldn't be as powerful. But I could be alone here in thinking that.
No, I mean, I agree, and I think you guys are just you guys are saying very similar things. Like just Tauros and Ninja Boy together have given Yveltal a lot of new options and have kind of really helped bring a lot of power to the deck that people were people obviously last format found the weaknesses in the Yveltal deck and were exploiting them. Whether that be the way the output works, Darkrai, the way that the way they put their damage out was better against Yveltal because their damage is spread out and it's not kind of centralized in one attacker. And even just weaknesses like the lightning weakness, Tauros being weak to fighting is a very undervalued aspect of the card, but I think it's huge and it's very important. I just think it fixes a lot of the weaknesses that people were preying on for Yveltal last format, and so I think it just kind of propels it back to the forefront of the metagame.
Last question about Yveltal. Do you guys think that the counters for Yveltal are going to be everywhere in San Jose? Or not San Jose, Anaheim. All of California is the same to me, sorry. Yeah, so like you said, Yveltal had a bunch of counters in the evolutions format, where we just had our past regionals. And now that Yveltal Garb definitely seems like the deck to beat again, at least from my personal testing, and I would assume you guys probably have a similar, if not the same view. Do you guys think that Yveltal will be heavily countered in Anaheim, or do you think it's a safe play to run it, even though it's probably the best deck in the format?
You can go.
I'll start. No, I don't really think it has a target on its head at the moment. I would expect a lot of people to play it, but it would be a pretty advanced metagame call to play something trying to counter it. I would suspect, however, that not a lot, but several decks, especially if you're playing Umbreon, which is a good card that we haven't really talked about today, but I think all of the decks like that are still going to be playing Jolteon as well. Like, there's kind of no reason not to include it.
The Jolteon EX or the Stage 1?
No, the Stage 1.
Okay.
To give you the lightning typing.
Yep.
So I think... I'm not sure if... I guess Vespiquen still plays Zebstrika. I'm not exactly sure. I've seen lists that play a pretty thick Decidueye in the deck.
In Vespiquen?
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
But I know I've also seen like an Umbreon Zoroark deck.
Yep.
You know, and that's just a Stage 1 deck, so they were playing the Jolteon as well. So, you know, maybe watch out for that tech, you know, in Stage 1s. I think Umbreon's really good. I'm not sure how good, but as a deck at least. The GX attack is super scary, but I think it's just like a little shaky. The energy cost is kind of high, and you kind of have low HP ish. I mean, 200 isn't low, but compared to other things, you know, everything else is more.
For a Stage 1 GX, it's comparatively low, yes.
Right, exactly.
What about you, Travis? What do you think?
Similar, like, I don't think people are going to be, like, hard countering Yveltal. Like, I don't think anybody's going to go into the tournament thinking, I have to beat Yveltal. Like, I have to. But, like, kind of like I think a lot of the things that also happen to be good against Yveltal are still going to be popular. Techs like Flare Grunt popped up as a common tech because it was so good against Yveltal, but I think it's kind of stuck around because people have realized that it has a lot of utility in every matchup, really. You know, like removing an energy and swinging into an attacker, into like their fresh attacker is always a solid move. Like that's a good play against every deck. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter what deck it is. So like Team Flare Grunt will probably still be around a lot, so that's like something Yveltal has to worry about. You know, decks like Vespiquen can fit in everything. You know, Zebstrika could be in there. The Stage 1 Jolteon could be in there. You know, you see decks with Umbreon or Espeon, GX that are popping up. Like, of course, they're going to be playing the evolutions as well. So, yeah, I don't think people are going to, like, think that they have to hard counter Yveltal. I just think that, like, a lot of stuff that happens to be good against Yveltal is also, like, just pretty good right now. So I think that's something Yveltal has to worry about.
So would you play, speaking of that, would you play Yveltal for Anaheim?
No, that's why, that's like another reason why I think Mewtwo is better, is because it doesn't have that, like, it's not affected by the EVs. Unless you run into, like, a random Espeon deck, like, that'll destroy you, but, like, I don't think that Espeon's going to be terribly popular.
Mm-hmm. I know last question, because I know we're going on a little bit too long, but I know that we've been working on an EVs list with Espeon in it. What are your thoughts on that? Have you enjoyed Espeon so far in the list, or?
Yeah, I think if you're gonna play like the EVs in Vespiquen, I think that like the Espeon is much better than Umbreon. I think that the attack just works better with Vespiquen as a deck. Like, the turn 1 confusion can, like, stall out while you get your evolutions out. Like, the second attack, the 60 plus 30 for their energy is good. Like, the
great Mewtwo counter.
It's a great Mewtwo counter. And, like, the GX attack just, like, works with how Vespiquen functions as a deck. Like, the way they have to build up their damage. You can kind of, like, place damage counters on targets based on how many Pokemon you have in your discard, how many you think you can get in the next couple turns. Like, you can just kind of, like, if you get like an early GX attack, you can just kind of like set up your next 3 knockouts for the game, like, ideally.
Yeah,
at least.
I totally agree. I think it's really good in there as well. So that's all we have time for today. Thank you guys so much for watching our little discussion about Anaheim regionals. We really appreciate the support. One thing that we're really big on here at the Hovercast TCG is that we're really trying to get a lot of community interaction, as we don't think that's something that a lot of channels really do. There are definitely some channels that do it, but we want to talk to you guys. We want to know what you guys enjoy. So please leave us comments, either talking about this video or what you guys think is best at Anaheim and why, and we'll be sure to respond to them, because that's something that we really care about. So thank you again so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a good day. See ya.